let me begin by asking you what kind of lured you to this one. Obviously, I know you worked with Disney before, but what was it about The Lion King specifically that kind of spoke to you?
I think it was more that I had learned so much on The Jungle Book, and I wanted to see if I could apply what I had learned to this particular story.
There's such a legacy with this movie. Did that kind of detract you at all, or was that quite a good challenge in
I think
some
it was a
ways?
challenge. I mean, it's the upside is so great because you don't get a story like this or music like this, and the opportunity to reach out to any cast member you wanted and for them to be excited at the prospect of being part of reimagining this for a new generation. And then, of course, the technology was so exciting, and if you could get this right, you could really engage an audience, a worldwide audience, in a way that they feel completely emotionally immersed, and that those great feelings of the highs and the low and the uplift of the ending, the excitement, the laughter that I experienced seeing the original film, if I could capture that using these tools and techniques, that was a really interesting prospect.
And in terms of the challenge, did you find this more, obviously because of the legacy of 25 years in this movie, was this more of a challenge than, say, doing something like Iron Man from the beginning, or even Iron Man 2, because that came obviously with MCU stuff and everything?
Iron Man 2 is more challenging than Iron Man 1. I thought the sequel would be easier, but it's harder because everybody's watching you and everybody's giving you input and everybody's trying to incorporate and include things that they felt that the original, that would be appropriate for a sequel and building towards Avengers and the MCU. So I like the freedom of being the first one involved in establishing a franchise like with Iron Man. Working on The Mandalorian now is really fun because there's no characters that anybody knows. We have invented all new characters and set in the Star Wars world. So there's a lot of freedom there. But the upside of working on something like this is exciting because people already have an emotional understanding of what that story is, and they have a connection to this material. And the music already exists, and it's wonderful. So to me, there's pros and cons to each. But for The Lion King, I felt that it was, if I could deliver it, there would be a lot of people who would be very appreciative because they love the story. And I think that they are very concerned that any time this title is remade, and with Disney doing quote-unquote live-action adaptations of their classic animation, that it would be handled right and with care.
You got James Earl Jones back for this. Was there any temptation to bring anyone else back from the original? Or was it important to kind of, apart from that, to kind of detach yourself from what had gone before?
I decided pretty early that it was most appropriate to bring back one character, and the character that isn't around for the whole story. And it is about the passing from one generation to the other of the mantle of responsibility. And so it made perfect sense to me to have it be James Earl Jones, because his voice isn't really replaceable. And I like the idea of announcing with our first casting announcement, James Earl Jones and Donald Glover, and I thought that was a shorthand for the entire approach we would take on this production.
Yeah. You touched upon Marvel. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the emotional ending of Endgame, which was hugely touching for so many people, and then carrying that into Spider-Man Far From Home, which has been a huge success. So are you glad that the reaction to all of that has been so sincere, and so after all those years that it's become such a...
Sure. I mean, being there from the beginning when it was so precarious, making the first Iron Man, to the way they stuck the landing so effectively. And by the way, I would have never had the guts to do it the way the Russos did. I remember being there filming it and feeling like this is going to be really overwhelmingly sorrowful for the audience. But they handled it so well and so responsibly, and I think it really comes down to the performance of Robert and Gwyneth in those final moments that really made it feel inspiring and not horrible, but wonderful and sad. But what a wonderful summation to this decade-long journey, and then to have the opportunity to be there in the aftermath with their on-screen daughter Morgan, and also with kind of his, I'd say, spiritual son Peter Parker, and to have Happy Hogan, for me to be able to be there and participate in that, and because I do care about those characters, they do feel real to me on some level, and it's wonderful to be there to help the audience through the transition to the next phase. So I'm happy I stayed involved there. Again, you know, how involved I was in the beginning, where we're trying to break new ground and establish these characters, and what I am now as a supporting player and, cheerleader for the franchise. It's a different role, but it still feels like there's a sense of continuity that I really appreciate.
Absolutely. Listen, absolutely fabulous talking to you. Thanks
Great.
so much for your time.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you